Thank you for joining me today on Paint a Beautiful Picture. Today we're going to talk about the roots of affection. Where are affection's roots? Some people go, oh, I'm just not very affectionate. It's true. Some people couldn't care less about anybody touching them, or they'll even get weird or freak out a little bit if someone touches them. There are other people for whom physical touch is one of their primary love languages. That would be me. So if you're ever around me or you know much about me, you will absolutely, without a question, find me touching you or putting my arm around you. I'm a really physical person. But I want you to understand something. Affection has its roots in our infancy, right? I want to tell you something fascinating. Inside of your mom, while she was inside of her mom, were the egg cells that became you. So literally the initial parts of you, at least half of you, existed a couple of generations back. That's a really mind-boggling thing for you to think about. So not only your own mom or your own dad, even your own grandmother has something to do with the way that you are and the way that you perceive of and give affection. I really want you to understand that. This is not all about you need to do this, you can change this. I'm telling you that there are significant events that have affected you. Okay? So affection's roots actually begin in your infancy. If someone held you and cuddled you and talked nicely to you and stroked you, by that I mean, stroke your arms, stroke your legs. I've seen thousands upon thousands of new moms. They're not all the same. Some of them, they pick up the baby, they nurse the baby because in a lot of cultures, that's the only means they have to feed a child. They nurse the baby, they put the baby away from them. They're not very affectionate. Other people within the same culture, they pick up the baby, and while they're nursing the baby, they're stroking the baby's back, and they're stroking the baby's head, and they're touching the baby's arms and legs. Everyone is not just the same about that. But the more meaningfully you touch your baby, and I do mean from the very first day of their life until they're about ready to walk, and frankly, it should continue, but especially in those very formative months, the more often you touch them, the more secure they are emotionally, and they actually have a calmer heart rate and a lower blood pressure. They tend to absorb nutrients better. They have less digestive troubles. Those are just the physical things. Internally, in their emotional state, it generally often makes them a calmer person, and it certainly makes them feel a lot more secure in the world. So even if you by nature are not a very affectionate person, or things happened in your past that have affected you or influenced you in how you feel about physical touch, this is something that you can develop. So moms, I'm going to talk to you for a minute. When you feed your baby, please don't watch a movie. Don't be on your phone. Don't be gabbing to everybody in the room. Hold your baby. Nurse your baby at the breast or feed the baby the bottle. Talk to the baby in this hand here where you're not holding onto the breast or your bottle. You need to touch them. You need to touch their leg or touch them on their bottom or their foot. You need to touch that baby while they're being fed. And ideally, you should speak to them. You should speak to them in a quiet tone. And you should tell them very positive things. There is nothing as interesting to a baby, and I mean from birth until they're 4 to 5 months old, as a human face. And if they're not seeing your face, and they don't have meaningful contact during that feeding time, you are literally altering them for the rest of their lives. Please pay attention to that message. Dads, if your wife is nursing and you don't get a lot of opportunities to feed the baby, that doesn't mean you can't have meaningful interaction times. If your child is on a bottle, then you have the exact same opportunity. make sure that during those 15 or 20 minutes, we're not talking hours and hours and hours and hours at a crack, that you are meaningfully interacting with that baby. You are talking to him or her, you are touching him or her, you are sending amazing messages to them. And it is one of the times when you can say to them, I am so happy to be your dad. I am so excited about your life. I'm very thrilled to get to know you, and I already see seeds in you of things. Again, this requires paying attention, right? I see you're very strong. I see you have a very strong will. I see you have a very strong demand for what you need and what you want. I think that's a great trait. I just can't wait until you get to be a little older and you can talk to me. I'm so excited about the conversations that we are going to have together. Just talk to that child. If you don't know how, tell them what happened that day. Man, I went to work and my boss this and my coworker that. And I'm working on this really exciting project. Yes, talk to that child. They're developing language skills long before they're able to speak. They're listening to you and they know you, and you are letting them know how valuable and important they are to you, how much you're excited about the relationship that you have with them now, that you are going to have the opportunity to develop with them. These are affection's roots. Okay. All right. Now you have a 1 to 5-year-old. They are independent. They've got little wheels under them and they're going, honey. I mean, they are walking, running, talking, exploring the world. They are busy, busy, and it's hard to settle them down. I get that. I know that part really well. Okay, let's talk about a couple ways to demonstrate affection. I used to take my kids to the pool. They both love to swim. In the water, I would hold them up. I would put my hands under their stomach and near their legs and let them kick and let them flail with their arms. And I never used wings or anything. I always had a hold of them. I wanted them to know that their safety net in the world and the thing upon which they could depend always was mom. And they could never doubt that I was going to be there for them to catch them and hold them up. I wanted them to know that message, and they did, and they do today. So you're making physical contact with them. They learn how to swim. You can let them get on your back and swim with them. There are just so many ways to take them and play with them in the water or the pool, the lake, the ocean, the whatever, and have physical contact with them. So it isn't that they can't be busy or they can't be crazy. It's that you can still have contact. Okay, so we'll take them as a painter or a creative kid who's building. As I said to you, there's nothing stopping you from sitting down with them and reaching out and touching them, or putting your hand on their arm, putting your hand on their shoulder. This is absolutely within the realm of possibility while they are busy playing and while they are doing things. One of the things I used to love to do with my kids is I would sit behind them. So they're sitting here with their little legs stuck out, building something, a tower or whatever. I would sit right behind them, mirrored, piggybacked behind them, and I would say, show me what you're doing. And I would literally take my hands, put my hands real gently around their hand and their wrist, and let them play with me there and show me what they were doing. Like literally feel me close to them, not overpowering them or overwhelming them, but close enough to them that they were showing me things that they were busy doing. Okay, so I was establishing affection when they were an infant, and as they got a little bit bigger, I was constantly reasserting that affection and growing those roots, that beginning, into a big sheltering tree. All right, let me tell you this. When you read, they can sit on either side of you, but literally, if they're pretty snugly, you put your arms around them, which I did. I would hold on to the book with one hand, and my one son would hold the other page. Then the other son would turn the page. Then, about halfway through the book, I would switch, and I would hold the book with this hand and let my son hold the book with his other hand, and the other one would turn the page. And the entire time, we are in physical contact with one another. Okay? So there are a lot of ways to grow those points of affection. Now, if you're listening to me and you have an older child and you did not establish those roots of affection, and you were one of those people who was on your phone when you were feeding your baby, etc., and you don't have a child who wants to be with you or snuggle with you or hang out with you, I acknowledge to you, this is going to take some time. So let me tell you how you go about this, because I touched on this before. Now I want to tell you what to do. Okay, a great place to start is at bedtime. By now, if the child's 7 to 10, they're taking their own bath and getting into their own pajamas. That doesn't mean, though, that you can't go in there with them and say to them, how was your day? Even as simple as sitting on the edge of the bed and putting your hand on their arm. Okay, it's not invasive or pushy or weird. All right. Even if it's kneeling beside the bed, which I would frequently do with my kids because I would say their prayers with them. They would get in bed and I would stay on my knees and still touch them. You can literally just reach out and put your hand. If they're not used to holding your hand, they're not probably going to like it too well. So don't try to hold their hand. Just put your hand gently on their wrist. Okay? Let them talk. They might be a little squirmy. It's okay. You know what? All of us have to go through things in life with which we aren't very comfortable. Let them be a little squirmy. But don't stop. Don't grab them. Just put your hand there. Over time, they'll learn. Like, okay, this is okay. This kind of contact is all right. And you may even get to the point where they will hold your hand. That would be awesome. It's very appropriate, not in front of the school, in front of all their friends, but at the house before you leave, to just put your arm around them and say, I really hope that you have a great day. I'm talking instituting simple, non-threatening things. Now, I am going to deal with this briefly today and more in depth later. But I want to say this. Sometimes dads, when their daughters get to be like 11 to 14, they get a little freaked out because their daughter looks like a woman now. They don't really know how to handle that. Do you know it's probably one of the times your daughter needs affection from you the most? So again, you need to deal with your own stuff. I've got to tell you this. If your wife is really a beautiful woman and your daughter's a beautiful young woman, nothing is going to surprise me that it's some element somewhere in you you don't recognize that your daughter's really a beautiful woman, and it might send mixed signals into your brain. This is where, when you have control of yourself, you say, this is my daughter. There's no way on the planet I would ever do one single thing that would hurt my daughter. And one of the things that will hurt my daughter is if I withdraw from her and act really strangely, because she isn't going to understand that. She still is a kid, even though she might look like a young woman. So you know what? Continue to hug your daughter. Continue to hold your daughter's hand. You might go from, kissing her in other places just to kissing her on the side of her forehead. And if you're really struggling, and I know that people do, then you do it when someone is around. You kiss her goodnight in front of your wife. You hug her goodbye in front of your wife. You put things in place so that you're safe and your daughter is safe, but you do not withdraw affection from your daughter. She really needs it from you. And as I've shared with you before, teenage boys need affection too. If you have put down roots of affection, then you are going to be able to do this. If you have not, then you need to start finding ways to be affectionate to your teenagers. And sometimes with boys, that's as much as like, banging them in the shoulder with your shoulder, or hug them, and I mean for 2 seconds, because they're not going to stand much more than that, or give them a fist bump. Do something that is going to give them some kind of physical contact with you. But remember, when I talked about speaking words to them, those are also affection. You need to do that with your teenagers, especially. If you have a teenager who's out of control and your general mode with them is to yell and scream and pitch a fit about what they're doing wrong and what they're not doing right, find something that is really good in them and speak to that. Those are words of affection. Tell them, I noticed today that you were nice to your sister. I noticed today that you spoke very respectfully to your dad. I was so proud of you today when you did that. That was great. That is affection, okay? And it affirms the relationship. It affirms what is good in them. And so plant the roots of affection deep in your child's life and see what will happen as it grows up into a healthy, responsive, secure young person and a great relationship between you and them. Today's challenge question is this: did I put good roots of affection into my relationship with my child? If you didn't, and there are a lot of parents who did not, then ask yourself this: what am I going to do to show kind affection to my child? How am I going to find out how to do that? Because I really want to challenge you. Find a way to put affection into your child's life to enrich them and help them feel more secure in the world. You may find additional information on our paintabeautifulpicture.com website. Additionally, you may watch me on Rumble, and you may also listen to a podcast on Buzzsprout or Spreaker, all under the name Paint a Beautiful Picture. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. You may subscribe, and if you are interested in receiving notifications, please hit the notifications button. Thank you so much for joining me today on Paint a Beautiful Picture. I will look forward to being with you soon.